Okay, in this video today, we are going to take some height down off of the saddle on this acoustic guitar. Um, this is my main acoustic, my main gigging guitar. I recently did a fret level and polish on it, but I had had a lot of damage on my frets, so I had to take a lot of material off when I did the fret level. And being that I already tend to favor string action that's on the high side, because I absolutely just hate any string buzz whatsoever. Once I took all that material off, it left me with string action that's just undesirably high. So we're going to try to compensate by taking some material off of this saddle, try and bring the string action back down. Okay, we're going to be able to see the issue right here. It's very easy to spot here on the bass side of the guitar with my StewMac string action gauge. If I'm measuring 30 seconds here, I'm basically at 0.15. That is very, very high. What I'd like to do is bring that down closer to about here. I'm basically going to try and take about a 1/16 of an inch off of the bottom of the saddle on the bass side. And on the treble side, we're going to maybe go a little bit less than that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in increments because I don't want to over sand the saddle. That would, on either side, that would be bad, and then I would have to make a new saddle. Okay, we got our saddle out of the guitar. It's already a nicely compensated saddle, so I want to take the material off the bottom of the saddle. Obviously not off the top where I'd have to recompensate. So what I've got here, which I've never used before, but I'm going to use for the first time now, is this off-brand version of the StewMac nut and saddle sander. The StewMac tool is very cool, but very expensive. This was less than half the price. Looks like it's basically the same thing, and I have every hope that it will work just as well. But since I've never used it before, and I don't want to take off too much material because I don't want to over grind the saddle and leave myself with not enough saddle and have to start over with a new saddle from scratch, what I've done is I've colored in about a 32nd of an inch here on the bottom. I'm going to put this into this tool, see if I can expose just that much, and start by taking that much material off of the saddle and see how we do. So first things first, we are going to get the saddle, bottom side obviously exposed, not, God forbid, not the top. We're going to get it into this cavity here. Now you can see that this little jig spreads to allow this to go in, and there's two kind of stems right there, and this is going to sit on both of those stems. I'm going to tighten this jig so that the saddle is nice and tight in there. And then I'm going to turn these two things on the top until I get the saddle flush. So let's find out how well this tool works. I've got the saddle lined up nicely in the saddle sander. You can see it right in there, and it's nice and flush. If I run my finger along the bottom here, nice and flush. And in fact, it's got these wheels. I have it upside down right now. It's got these wheels. So when I turn it this way, and I've got this flat surface right here, it rolls nicely straight across the surface. Now what I want to do is I want to expose the amount of material that I want to take off. And I'm going to do that using these gauges on the top. You can see it's got these little dials. And from what I understand, each one of these should be about a 1/64 of an inch. Now since I want to take off a 32nd of an inch, I'm going to turn this 1, 2 times, and then again 1, 2 times, and see if that exposes the material that I want to take off. It looks like I need to go a little bit more. I need to turn this until I see the amount of material I want to take off. And that looks like we got it right there. Okay, so now we can see on the bottom, that's about the amount of saddle I'm going to start by taking off and see where we're at. And I've got this piece of double-sided 150 grit sandpaper. And I am going to just simply, it's a nice flat surface, I'm going to run this straight across. And when I finally take off the material that I mean to take off, the wheel should start turning again because it will have cleared the space on the bottom. So let's see how it works. We've taken some amount of material off. I'm guessing it's not going to be anywhere near enough yet, but like I said, my first time using the tool, I don't want to overdo it. But it's nice and flat on the bottom. That's the important thing. So when it goes back in the guitar, it'll make nice contact. So I'm going to put it back in the guitar, kind of see where we're at, and see how much more I might need to take off. Okay, so I've got the saddle back on. I've got the guitar tuned to pitch. And it sounds nice and it plays nice. It feels a lot better just taking that 32nd of an inch off. But again, I was being conservative since it was the first time I was using that tool. And I feel like I could still take probably the better part of another 32nd of an inch off. And then I'd really have the action I want. So I'm going to take this saddle out one more time. Do the same little thing. Mark it off on the saddle. Take it off on the nut and saddle sander. And then I think we'll be right where we want to be. So again, I'm going to want to mark the material that I want to take off still on this saddle. And since I want to get really fine lines on there, I'm just taking a utility knife to make this pencil super, super sharp so I can make a really, really, really finely pointed line across my saddle and get off exactly this right amount of material. I've marked off another solid 32nd of an inch on the bottom of this saddle. I'm going to get it in the nut and saddle sander, run it over the sandpaper, and take that material off. Got our saddle in the nut and saddle sander. It's time to sand. So now look at this, at the end of 2 rounds of sanding, there's a couple little pieces that just have to come off there, but that is a nice, flush, beautiful saddle right there. And that should be now just the action that we want. It's gonna go right back in the guitar and gonna see how it sounds. Okay, been through 2 rounds with the nut and saddle sander. And you can see I've lowered the action a tremendous amount. Where were we before? We were on our 30 seconds. So let's go here. I've lowered it probably almost the full 1/16 of an inch. Not quite on the bass side, and also not quite on the treble side. Like I said, I still tend to like it a little bit on the higher side just to avoid any string buzz, but you can see how pretty that looks in terms of just the height. I know some people probably are looking at that and going, I want my action right there. I am not that guy. I want my action a little bit on the higher side, but let's hear how it plays. All right, so we've been through 2 passes with the nut and saddle sander, and it just sounds fabulous. Clear as a bell. It's intonated perfectly all the way up the neck. There's no dead spots. I didn't go too low. In fact, the strings are probably lower right now action-wise than anything I can think of in my recent memory with regards to this particular guitar. But it turned out to be just the right amount. I've got clear sound. Every string, and it's so much easier to play. Just feels superb. So this really turned out to be a quality purchase. I'm sure the Stu Mac version is great. I'm sure the people who have purchased it feel like it's well worth the money. God knows I have plenty of stuff from Stu Mac. This one I got for a little bit less off brand, but I'm pretty sure it's the exact same thing. This was the first time I used it. This saddle, I'm getting great energy transfer. I feel like it's perfectly flat, perfectly square. The guitar feels great. So I recommend it for sure. And for anybody else out there who is, you know, just thinking about doing some work on their own guitar and wondering, you know, if a tool like this could be helpful, I'd say 100%. I mean, this was, again, my first time using it, and I thought that was super simple. So, you know, if you like the video, check out the other videos I have, subscribe to the channel, and I'm going to go play this guitar, and I hope you're going to go play yours, and see you out there. Bye-bye.